Hi, how are you? It's nice to meet you. So, let's kind of walk through a couple things so that it works out great for both of us. I know that you're not in real estate, that's for sure. Um, but tell me, is there anything other than the questions that I sent to you? Is there anything specific that you want to focus on that I didn't? I only had a couple questions because I thought they were so important, and then I looked at the questions that we sent to get an idea of what you like to work on. But is there something specific you really want to get across? Okay. And I think that that's good because I think what and will because the chit chat they'll edit out, but I think that when we get started, please tell me how to say your last name properly. Ah, Fabarov. 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 Okay, Dmitry Fabarov. Okay. Because when I introduce you, I want to make sure that I don't if I mess it up, then I will apologize. You can correct me. So, what I try and do on these podcasts is I try and ask some pretty open ended questions. But what I'm really trying to do is nail down like points so that we can kind of jump. So that because I feel like, especially to maintain your compliance and your disclosure, that if we get into the weeds like so many people want to do, I think that's where people get in trouble. So, it's like if I asked a question, for instance, what's something that a small business could do to offer better retirement or some sort of 401k or retirement plan for their small group of employees. If you say, well, if it's this kind or this kind, that just goes in the weeds and we lose people. And I think that falls more in line with all of your compliances. We're not trying to solve the world's problems. We're just trying to give people kind of like, oh, maybe I should think about that, or I should call him because I didn't know that. So like just little tidbits of things as we go along. Do you, when I look at some of your questions that were asked of you, do you ever help people when they are trying to invest in real estate? Do you ever have clients that call you and say, what do you think about this if I buy this as a rental? Do you ever give that kind of advice? Do you also work on I'm pre-interviewing you just because I think it makes me not kind of sit there and hesitate on questions for you. Um, when you start to advise clients, do you start with very small because you're doing a lot of you talk about it's it's family planning, it's it's every, I think most people think they have to have, a couple $1 million in the bank to start talking to a financial planner. And I don't get that sense from you. I think you're trying to, my impression is you're trying to open people's eyes earlier so that they can be better investors. Okay. I've got like 12 questions out of that one statement for you. And that's the problem is I'll go like, okay, I think about that and I think about that. And I think before we give it all away, the name of your company is called Compound Planning, correct? It's your company or you work for them? It's a partnership. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you. I'm going to introduce the podcast. I'm going to introduce you. And then I'm going to do brief and then I'm going to ask you to elaborate on who you are, what your company is, and give a little bit of a bio. So, okay, cool. All right. You say whatever you want to say. Whatever makes you feel good. How's that? All right. All right, let's get started. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Robbyn Battles, and I'm just saying, I'm really excited to introduce this next guest. We've got Dmitry Faberov, and he is a senior financial advisor for Compound Planning. And I'm going to hand it off to you, Dmitry, to either correct the way I said your name or add some more details as to what you do, and then we'll get into some really good questions for our audience. I love that. What I'm really curious about is personally, and the people that I talk to and the families that I work with, they run the gamut as well as first time home buyers to next and lots of wealth. Can we focus first on that younger investor that's got a little bit of money or is trying to get their first million, And I know it probably they probably wouldn't be sitting in front of your desk, but I'm sure there's somebody that is associated with you where you could point them in the right direction so that ultimately they wind up that 5 to 10 million plus client of yours. What are some really good tips for those young adults that have just a tiny bit of money, or they don't think that they have any money, and what they should start doing? So, what do you think is available to those younger investors that really will keep them on track? They really don't have the wealth behind them yet that lets them sit down and look at 10 different portfolios and spend 3 hours looking at everything. What's something that's easy that they can track? And you said something very important is if you're already in debt, then you shouldn't be investing. Did I hear that correctly? Say the name of that again. What's the name of it? Okay. Why do you feel that you've done this for a long time? Why do you feel that people are so they're almost afraid to look at their finances and it's and go, okay, I'm really I'm gonna buckle down because you're saying don't I don't want to put words in your mouth and oh, just full disclosure, this we're just talking scenarios. We're not talking tax advice. We're these are just open-ended questions. So if someone's afraid to look at their finances, they know that they've got credit card debt, they know they just know that they're not in great shape, but they have this fear of just facing it and buckling down to handle that. Number one question is, why do you think that first time investors or people fail to invest? And then my follow-up question to that is, if you work for someone that has a 401k, would without knowing all their circumstances, would you advise them to limit that contribution so that they can get that debt paid off? I think it's interesting that you say it really doesn't matter what income bracket they're in, or whether they're first investors or they're, very savvy investors. This aversion to looking at what's happening with your finances. I find that interesting because I would assume that it would be the smaller investor that doesn't want to look at it because it's like, oh, I'm making mistakes. But to hear that everybody does it, that's quite interesting. And I go ahead. Right. So let's go to a little bit of market advice. What's your top advice for buyers or investors trying to make smart decisions in today's market? Have you ever said to a client, I don't think that that goal is realistic all the time? What makes give me without going into, I mean, we could talk about scenarios all day long, but what makes people have those unrealistic goals where you say, wait a second, that's not going to work? Mhm. Mhm. Let's talk generational wealth. One of the things that I see in my business is there people are inheriting property, they're inheriting wealth. And what are some of the first things that the people that are inheriting this estate that also comes along with, accounts, what's one of the first things they should do? So do I want to interrupt you and ask you a question before I lose my question. So the person that doesn't have the financial muscle is the person that's inheriting because they haven't been talked to from their parents and all of those that they're inheriting this wealth from about what to do, how to plan it out, and what you should expect. passing on that generational wealth. So having those conversations, which I feel a lot of families probably don't do it at any extent. Is there anything that the people that have the wealth that know it's going to be passed down, is there anything that they should be putting in place within their portfolio, within their trust, somewhere within their plan for inheritance that will kind of keep things in line for those that are inheriting that don't have that financial muscle? If you have family members and you own, even if you own one house, because I mean, you look at the equity that so many of these, these boomers and, a little bit older have in their house. I mean, nowadays in California, people that own homes free and clear, I mean, they could have $2 million in equity just in the home. Is there something that can be placed in the trust? Say you've got four siblings. Is there a way to take that trust and for it to be directed that in order to avoid that family fight, other than, keeping everybody abreast of what's happening, can you appoint one person that makes all the decisions so that that person, it's like they'll give a courtesy talk perhaps sometimes, and then that person is responsible for making those decisions and executing that. Then my next question is, when you, let's say you've got four siblings and all of those siblings have kids, and one of the siblings passes, how do they set it up so that their share of that estate go to their kids so the grandkids are getting it, instead of being, because I run across this a lot, the kids think that they just get a bigger amount and it doesn't funnel on to the grandkids. What can someone do to prevent that? How does one find a corporate, how does one find that corporate trust? How does So you're even learning things by doing that, right? What's the biggest error you see when people are planning their estate and they're putting things in their trust? What's the biggest mistake that you see people do that you wish it's like, I wish they would have not done this that causes them the biggest problem? I want to shift from trust and I want to go to small business for just a moment. And then we're going to wrap it up because that's a lot of information in the short amount of time we've been here. But going on to small businesses, they already struggle. But let's say you're a small business, you've got a little bit of financial plan. One of the problems that small businesses have that you hear a lot is just retaining good employees. And how can a small business, as part of their planning, well, should it be part of their planning, start to think more about their employees and what kind of benefits and savings they can provide to their employees to retain them and make it a better place to work? And then my follow-up question to that is, once they're able to do this, does that actually affect the value of their business if they're ready to sell that business? I think those are fantastic tips because one of the issues is people really don't know what to ask. And I think that's across the board with, in my industry, your industry, and just about any industry, is they hear a couple things or they hear something from a friend and they take it as golden. And then they wind up not with the best advice, not with the best person, not with the person that has their best interest at hand, but knowing that those resources are out there, especially the ones that you just talked about. I think those are key elements. And with that, I want to ask you, is there anything else that you would like our viewers to know? Because I'm running out of time and I need to give you the floor to say whatever you need to say that's going to be helpful to those people that have millions of dollars or want to have millions of dollars in the future. And don't be afraid of ChatGPT. I'm like, don't be afraid of ChatGPT. I think so many people get away from it. It's this, it's that. It really is. It's a great resource. I mean, you just think of people used to go to the dictionary and encyclopedias. This is just the new version of that, and it's quicker and it makes checklists for you and punch lists for you, and it can get you started. But like you said, don't go for, give me tax advice on this. It's not quite there yet, and if you really don't know what to ask, you shouldn't be asking it tax advice. I think those are great bullet points for the end of our conversation. If someone wants to reach out to you because they've got, an extra $5 million sitting around, they don't know what to do with it, where would where would they contact you? Well, I really appreciate your time. I think there was so much information. Someone's going to have to listen to this at least 2 to 3 times because you've got little nuggets through this entire conversation, which I just love. And I think the listeners will love as well. Thank you again for being on. I'm just saying. And you actually did get to the point on a lot of different topics, and I appreciate that. So until next time, we'll have some more great guests, just like we did with Dimitri. And we'll be seeing you soon. Thanks again. You too. Bye.